We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 5, entitled The Meeting of Nanda Maharaj in Vasudev. Text number 8. The residents of Vrindavan, they are being described here not only in a historical context regarding Krishna's appearance in the world, but also as an example for all people, places, and times of the nature of Bhakti. Everything has its spiritual purpose. If we understand and practically apply that understanding to its relation with Krishna. When we understand that we are eternal souls, Atma, Mamayvam so jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. We are part of Krishna, infinitesimal parts of Krishna. Like the ray of the sun is a part of the sun, qualitatively one with the sun. But because of quantitative difference, the nature of the jiva or the atma is jivara swarupoi krishnara nityadas. Eternally we are servants of Krishna. Some things we can change, but certain principles are eternal, unchangeable. We are always subordinate to the absolute truth. We are always in a position of a servant of the absolute truth. Our choice is whether we want to serve the internal potency of the Lord or the external potency of the Lord. To be subordinate to the all-loving, all-compassionate, all-beautiful, supreme Krishna by assisting Sri Radha in their eternal pastimes of unending happiness, or servants of the material energy, the Maya Shakti, subordinate to lust, envy, anger, arrogance, greed, and endless illusions. Daivi he shugunamayi mama maya duratyaya. This material energy, which is Krishna's own divine energy, is all powerful. It keeps everyone who wants to be independent of the loving service of the Lord in the service of their mind, in the service of their senses, birth after birth after birth. But when we actually understand the truth as it is revealed in Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, that we are all part of God, that we are of the spiritual essence of God. Bhoktaram jagatapasam sarvalokam maheshwaram. when we see that everything is Krishna's property. And when you water the root of the tree, every part of the tree is satisfied. It's a very simple concept. Nature is teaching us the most critical, crucial, essential lessons everywhere we look of what is the goal of life and how to attain it. And if we're just a little bit awakened, we could see the highest lessons, the deepest education, Raja Vidya, wherever we look. But when the ego covers us with this veil, then we've become so dull. We see every plant, every tree. If you water the root, every part of the tree is nourished. If you water the branches and the twigs, even if you water the flowers, gets it wet, makes it shine a little, but it doesn't really nourish it. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate. Krishna is the root, the cause of all causes, the source of everything. When Krishna is satisfied by our love, by our service, then automatically what we desire most, unending love, happiness, manifests within ourselves. We are nourished. But a civilization, we're all on the same tree, and everyone's fighting. Brothers and sisters are fighting. Neighbors are fighting. Castes are fighting. Religions are fighting. Nations are fighting. Races are fighting. Because everyone wants to get more water for their branch or for their twig. Some people fight over a twig. Maybe somebody on a family level. Nationalist level, you're fighting over a branch. This is my branch. And I'm a selfless service because look at all the millions of twigs on my branch. It's not for me. I and mine. Yes, nations are fighting. Religions are fighting. Everybody's fighting. But the solution to this miserable situation is just recognizing there's one root that we all have on the tree of life. Sarvaloka Maheshwara. Janmadya Shayataha. This is the first aphorism of Vedanta Sutra. Everything's there, if we just understand this. That the absolute truth is from whom everything emanates. The root of everything. If we just learn to satisfy the Lord, all problems can be solved. And even if there are apparent external problems, we're transcendental to all of them. That's the solution. On a physical and mental level, the mind is always moving around. And as far as the body, whoever we are, we're going to grow old and we're going to die. What is the solution? The solution is not fighting with all of our might through our technologies and our sciences and our athletics to somehow or other get the body to live longer. Those things are there. The solution is simple. To realize that the person within the body, who's actually me, is eternal. When your car gets old and you have to trade it in for a new one, we don't have memorial services. We don't have, our best well-wishing relatives offering eulogies. We just move on with life. That's the way automobiles are. When we understand that I am the eternal soul, and I am the eternal servant of God, and Krishna is the root of all that exists, and real happiness and real purpose is in satisfying Krishna. This is Bhakti. Then we see the whole world through different eyes. We don't see the world in terms of aham mameti. I am who I think I am, and you are who I think you are. And this is mine, and this is yours. We see everything is the energy of Krishna. Everything is beautiful and divine when we see Krishna's connection to it. Because Krishna is all beautiful. He is Sham Sundar. He is all attractive. We're meant to, Krishna tells in Gita, one who sees me everywhere and everything in me, I'm never lost to that person, nor is that person ever lost to me. So whether we're rich or poor is not really such a important matter. You can be rich and externally, but in poverty within. And you can be in poverty externally and be extraordinarily wealthy within. Which is better? Happiness is what happens within. Happiness is not about the externals. We all interpret things according to our particular egos. Yes. For some people, sitting in a crowded room like this is the most blissful state of their life, the best day of their life. Being with 2,000 devotees, sitting together, crowded in front of the supreme beautiful Radha Gopinath, listening to Srimad Bhagavatam. But take someone else in here, and they'll think this is absolutely miserable. I mean, if you brought somebody who's not thinking in terms of devotion, you release them from a prison and put them in this room, and they'll say, just bring me back to the prison. It's not so crowded. And I could listen to, the music I like to hear. And so we interpret everything according to our state of consciousness. But actually, everything in its original state is meant to share our love for Krishna with each other. That's what community and society is on a spiritual level. Whatever intelligence each of us has, whatever skills, whatever wealth, whatever property, and everything else. Community means it only has one purpose. It's a facility to share our love for Krishna with each other. So here we find the Brijavasis, they're dressing very opulently to share their joy with each other. the joy that Krishna has come to the world. It's not that the Brijabasis are thinking, well, everything belongs to Krishna, so let's just burn all our nice clothes and go to Nanda Maharaj's house wearing old kopans. They could have done that, yes. Everything belongs to Krishna. The whole purpose of life is detachment and renunciation. So just give away our clothes, burn our clothes, and let's just put on our kopans and celebrate. They're wearing beautiful silks and gold and silver and jewels and elegant turbans. Because that's what all these things are for. We dress ourselves in such a way according to the occasion to celebrate our love for Krishna and to share our love for Krishna with each other. And when the Brijabasis were dressed like this during the Nandotsava, we can know for sure that none of the ladies were looking at some other gopi thinking, saying to her husband, why don't I have a sari like that? Why she has diamonds on her necklace and I only have pearls. No, even if you just have pearls, when you see another gopi with diamonds, it brings you ecstasy. You're thinking, just see how she's using these diamonds to offer her love for Krishna. And that's what makes us happy, to see how people are making Krishna happy. Envy is when we're thinking, I'm in the center. But bhakti is when Krishna's in the center. So when we see somebody else doing something wonderful to make Krishna happy, that makes us happy because Krishna's happy. So everyone is dressed in their best clothes with their best turbans, and nobody's jealous of each other. Nobody's competing in a mundane way with each other. Everyone's just happy, being the best they are. This body is Krishna's body. To make the body beautiful for Krishna is devotion. To make the body for our own arrogance has the opposite effect. Yes, when Krishna called the gopis to the Ras Leela, they decorated themselves very nicely. They tried to make themselves very beautiful for Krishna. In 1966, the first marriage within the International Society for Krishna Consciousness was Mukunda, that now he's Maharaj, and Janaki Devi. So we'll discuss this evening, because we're going to be celebrating a memorial for Yamuna Devi, our very, very beloved, worshipable God sister, for the afternoon program. So we'll discuss that aspect of it this afternoon. But interestingly, Srila Prabhupada made all the arrangements because he wanted this marriage to be completely spiritual. Invited the relatives, and Hare Krishna. Sounds like some brahmachari didn't want to hear this story. don't hold him against them, because I used to be like that too. So, Srila Prabhupada was teaching them a whole culture where God is in the center, where love for Krishna is the purpose. And Srila Prabhupada himself, he cooked a 15-course feast with his own hands. He made every preparation himself. Yamuna Devi was making khichuris, but Prabhupada cooked everything else. For 40 people. In a tiny little kitchen. Not like the kitchen we have here with big stoves and big pots. He just had little pots and just a little tiny stove. And he cooked all these preparations himself. From 11 in the morning till 5 in the evening, they were cooking. And Janaki, who was getting married, she was doing all decorations. And by Prabhupada's arrangements, a few days before there was an initiation, and they decorated. But there was even more beautiful decorations for the marriage. They were making garlands and stringing them and putting them all around. It was Prabhupada's apartment where it was all happening in the Lower East Side of New York. And then what happened, everyone was really taken aback. Because Srila Prabhupada told Mukunda and Janaki how they should dress. And all the devotees and all the guests and everybody else who was assembled there was about 30, 40 people. Some of them knew Janaki for years. She never wore makeup or cosmetics. She always dressed really, really simple and plain. And now she came in for her marriage. And she was wearing a beautiful red silk sari. It was even a culture shock for her. What to speak of everyone who was seeing her. And she had makeup on her eyes and wherever else you're supposed to put. And she had jewelry. And devotees were thinking, this philosophy's about renunciation. Before she was a devotee, she was just wearing old jeans and shirts, whatever they wore. I don't know. And now she looks just like a deity. What kind of renunciation is this? They're still waving. We have about 150 brahmacharis. But this was Prabhupada's arrangement. She was beautiful, and he was very well dressed too. For Krishna. And that was an austerity for them. So to dress beautiful for Krishna is Krishna consciousness, if that's the way we can best serve according to time, place, and circumstance. It's a matter of consciousness. Somebody could put the same red sari and the same jewels and the same cosmetics and put it on, and it's just completely arrogant and mundane. And another person, Janaki, puts it on, and it's an offering of transcendental love and devotion. And Prabhupada is so happy and so proud. Bhakti is not only a philosophy, it's a culture. It's a way of life. It's beautiful. We're everything. As soon as the false ego comes in, it spoils the beauty of everything on a deeper level. But where there's humble, selfless, sincere devotion, understanding everything is for Krishna. Yes, the gopis were dressing very nicely to meet Krishna, but they weren't doing it to show off their own beauty. They were doing it because whatever I have, it's for Krishna's pleasure. Krishna, enjoy. It's the act of devotion Krishna accepts. Devotees, we take bath in the morning. Why are we taking baths in the morning? Because it's Krishna's body. And we're going to use this body for Krishna. So we want this body to be the best it could be for Krishna. In this way, when we put on the tilak, we're consecrating our body as the temple of Krishna. When people are superficial and external, we forget the essence. Bhakti Vinod Thakur says, in the age of Kali, people may wear the kanti mala and tilak, but they're simply the servants of Kali. If we don't have Vaishnav character, there's no meaning to tilak. If we don't have Vaishnav character, there's no meaning to kanti mala. Krishna's not going to save you because of the mala. Krishna's going to save you because your consciousness is in harmony with what the mala and the tilak represents. Humility, dedication, faith, and love. That's what it represents. And that's what it reminds us of. And that's what it's supposed to remind everybody who sees it of. But if we don't act according to what it represents, then when people see it, Srila Prabhupada explains that when a disciple misbehaves, people will think, people will see it as a stain on the character of the guru. That's how it's perceived. What we represent is something so holy and sacred. And the way we represent it is holy and sacred. And by that is supposed to actually give us the consciousness to strive to live in harmony with that spirit. This beautiful Nandotsav festival there is such incredible wealth. And Srila Prabhupada in purport is explaining that in the days of historical India, this is what the villages were like. The villages were full of life, full of prosperity on every level. When cow protection is valued by the overall society, then taking care of cows brings incredible wealth. Because the concept has so much been stripped away from our modern day of life. Because it becomes such a consumer-oriented civilization. Or what they asked Mahatma Gandhi, what do you think of Western civilization? And Gandhi said, I think it's a good idea. In other words, there is no civilization, really. It's a good idea to have a Western civilization. But the cow is seen just how we could make profits from it. If it gives milk, we'll somehow or other keep it alive. But when the milk production goes down, we can get more money. It becomes a liability economically, but their bodies are an asset. We can make money by killing it, but it costs money to keep it alive. That's the mentality. And when you have that mentality and you see through that lens, it creates massive slaughterhouses. So there's hardly such thing as cow protection in the world today. But we see here, if we actually see the value of compassion, if we actually have higher ideals of what watering the root of the tree is what's going to make us happy. If Krishna's happy with what we do and the integrity in which we do it, then everything will be provided. And it is a fact. In the olden days, where Prabhupada is speaking of, the villages were very prosperous. Because taking care of the cows, protecting them nicely, giving them attention, making them happy, made us happy. And agriculture, actually seeing the earth as our own mother, who's providing everything. And instead of just exploiting to make as much profits from as little space of land as possible, without really considering that after some years the topsoil is destroyed and the earth itself is polluted, and what we give to our grandchildren and great-grandchildren may be nothing, but doesn't matter. Let's just amass what we can now and take from the earth and take from the cow. Because that consciousness has pervaded so much the world. Now the villages, there's so much poverty. There's so much lack of education. There's so much lack of medicine. There's so much lack of resource. And people from the villagers, to come to a city is like going to a heavenly planet. And millions and tens of millions are leaving their villages because they're so desperate to come to a city because they've seen some Bollywood movies and they think that this is what it's like in Mumbai. And millions flood in here. And then they realize there's really not that much more here. There's more rats, more people, more pollution. And the people back in the villages, they hardly have a chance. It's not the fault of the people of the villages, the fault is the holistic vision of how society could be. Food is wealth. And the Brajavasis, they were not mining, but they had diamonds, and they had gold, and they had silver, and they had rubies, and they had all these other things. More than anybody today in Bombay. They had more than any of the jewelry stores down the road. And all they did was grow vegetables, and take care of cows, and churn milk. But because they did it in such a beautiful way, in such a compassionate way, and because Krishna was so pleased with them, they can trade it with the people who did do mining and everything else, and everybody had everything because there was a compassionate spirit. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining, by the atrocious activities of Ugrakama, we are killing the opportunity for human civilization. That means balance. Balance means we could have all these different types of occupations and industries, but the balance is based on our consciousness. When Krishna is in the center, everything automatically, naturally becomes balanced. But when ego and greed is in the center, then everything becomes off balance. Because even farmers who are, if they're egoistic and greedy, they're going to fight just as much as anybody else. There's mafias in the cities, there's mafias in the villages. Because of arrogance and greed. Nandotsav is the way life is meant to be. Where everybody, according to our particular roles, we could use everything for Krishna service. Now we don't read about, in Nandotsav, we don't read about sannyasis or rishis or mahatmas wearing beautiful saris and turbans and jewels. They're just dressed like rishis and sadhus. But the grihastas, they're dressed like this. Everybody has their role of how to utilize things. And that's, Varnashram Dharma is not a suppressive, oppressive concept. Varnashram Dharma is meant to uplift everyone to the ultimate state, to encourage everyone, to respect everyone in such a way to bring them to the spiritual world. In this world, that's what Varnashram is about. But because it has been abused, it has been used as a weapon to exploit and suppress people, even the word makes us think that there's prejudices within it. And it's against the freedom of humanity. Not at all. Krishna created the system. Aham bija pratapita, he's our father, he's our mother, he's our suhrita sarvabhutanam, he's our best well-wishing benefactor and friend. He created this so that every single personality could be happy in this life and be encouraged to attain the highest perfection. Where everybody's protecting everybody else with compassion. That's the purpose. So everyone has a role. Yes. As far as I know, Janaki didn't dress that way every day. But for her marriage, she did. Because the two of them, Mukunda and Janaki, were consecrating the vows of their relationship before God. Just like sometimes in your Bollywood movies, I'm sure you see it. I never saw one actually. But it's there in the scriptures also where somebody wants to make a human sacrifice. Yes, Jad Bharat, they wanted to make a human sacrifice. So what they usually do, if the priests, they bathe the body of the human very nicely, and then they put perfumes, and then they put really fine clothes and jewels and everything, because you're offering this body to, whatever goddess or god it may be. And then Yagyai Sankirtana Praya. In the stage of Kali, Sankirtan is the best sacrifice. But when someone would do a human sacrifice, in this mode of nature, they would dress that body very nicely because, you're offering this life to God. So marriage is a sacrifice. Brahmacharis will start coming back with this. Marriage is a sacrifice. What is the sacrifice of marriage? The husband and wife, they are offering their body, mind, souls, their lives before God. They're consecrating their lives before God and before the sacred fire. They're making an offering of their lives where two becomes one. And therefore they dress beautifully as an offering of sacrifice, a sacrifice of love. Sacrifice doesn't mean you kill. Sacrifice means you give your life for the higher purpose of love and devotion. So yes, people were confused when Janaki Devi came in, so elegant, beautiful, and opulent. It was shocking. It was absolutely shocking. In this little flat in the Lower East Side, for somebody to walk in like this, and Prabhupada was happy. Because yes, this means you are dressing this way, you are doing this way, you're chanting these mantras and everything to make an offering to Krishna. And you're going to be the best you can be in that offering to Krishna. If all you have is a kolpan, that's good enough. But if you can offer more, then that's even better. It's not about arrogance. It's not about false prestige. It's about love. It's about devotion. And how everything can be utilized for devotion. Srila Prabhupada came to America on the Jaladuta, an old cargo ship that was actually so old that it was retired soon after Prabhupada was on it. I met one captain in Detroit, and he was for the same Scindia steamships, and he used to take the boats. And he wasn't on the boat that Prabhupada, but he knew the captain. He was best friends with the captain that took Prabhupada, Captain Pandya. And he told me the Jaladuta was very old, and they retired it soon after. So that's all. That was the means that Prabhupada had. But then about a year later, Srila Prabhupada took the first airplane in his whole life from New York to San Francisco. And here he was on an airplane with his own seat. And he looked down, and when he saw the houses from the first time when you're 72 years old, and it's the first time you've ever been in an airplane, Prabhupada remarked, he said, all the houses look like little matchboxes. Everything's so relative to our perspective. Yes? We're in this temple now, and it seems so spacious, and it seems so big, and so many people are sitting here with us, and like that. But when you're in an airplane looking down at this temple, it looks insignificant. Like a little matchbox, Prabhupada said. Prabhupada said about the Jaladuta, when the stormy weather was, he wrote in his diary, he said, it's like a little matchbox floating in the middle of the ocean. Hari Hari.